What we need to realize is what each and every one of us does makes a difference. And so I ask you tonight, join with me. Let's become a beacon for what we believe in. Let's attempt to do better tomorrow than what we did today. Let's not point at people and tell them what they ought to eat. Invite them to your house and feed them a good vegan meal. There is still time. There is still time to save this planet. The only thing that has ever changed human behavior is crisis. We should revel in the fact today that we have a crisis. The Chinese have a symbol, and the symbol for crisis and the symbol for opportunity are exactly the same. What's happening right now with the impending pandemic is not bad, it is good. It gives a time to focus people's attention on what we're doing. When we end up with the crazy weather that we're having, maybe people will stop and think about the fact that global warming had a lot to do with the hurricane that took out New Orleans. 80% of all of the grain produced in the United States of America, while we have millions of people going hungry around the world, 80% of all of the grain produced in the United States of America today is stuffed down the throat of an animal. It takes 16 pounds of grain to put 1 pound of meat on your plate. 16 pounds of grain will feed 32 hungry people, or one Rush Limbaugh. Which is the best use of our resources? People tell me that I shouldn't talk about Rush like that. I really think it's great. If Rush continues to eat meat, he may not be with us much longer. So there is an upside to a lot of the issues that are out there. I've taken an hour to tell you what I think. What I want to do now is open it up for questions. I need to warn you that if you do not ask questions, we will have a quiz. Are there any questions? Say again. Okay. The question is, how about the food in Europe? The interesting thing in Europe is that they have been hungry. They understand the value of food. Are they all eating vegan? No. But I will tell you that the family farmers in Europe have a much greater stature in the society than they have here in the United States. But when somebody starts talking to you about the Mediterranean diet, do you realize that when the Germans took over Denmark and removed all of the animal protein, the number of people that checked into the hospital dropped drastically? When they put the whole country on a vegan diet, they were healthier than they were ever before. And so when people talk to you about some of the diets out there, whether you're talking the Mediterranean diet, which is nobody even knows what it is, or you look at the fact and they say, well, look, in France, they still eat dairy products and drink wine, but you know, the Germans ended up with the French and put them on a vegan diet for 7 years. And it took about another 7 years before they ended up consuming a noticeable amount of animal protein. And if you take France today and you look at their health occurrences in France today compared to the United States, they are almost identical. And so when somebody talks to you about the mythical Mediterranean diet or the French diet, those things do not exist. The China study showed, the largest dietary study ever done in the history of the world, showed that the least amount of animal protein in the diet, the healthier the individuals were. probably, if you adopt a good vegetarian diet or a good vegan diet, it will go down. It will not be unusual for your cholesterol to be somewhere around 116. And the fact of it is, the better your diet, and remember, there are a lot of lousy vegetarian diets. There's a lot of lousy vegan diets. If you have a good, healthy, plant-based diet, your cholesterol should go down somewhere under 115. If it got under 40, I'd be concerned. In China, it was not unusual for them to see lots of people that had cholesterol levels under 70. The cattle industry, they go out right now and say, oh, you better be careful. Your cholesterol may get too low. There's not a study in the world that shows there's ever been a problem associated with too low a cholesterol.
You're talking about the cholesterol. About 7 years ago, I couldn't eat all together. I never could keep my cholesterol under like 260, and I really had to work on it. Second doctor's report I had after I quit eating it, it went down near 150.
Do you read?
The reason I quit eating meat was listening to this gentleman here, grew over, and studied his literature.
The largest, remember, the number one killer of Americans today is heart disease. The longest ongoing study in the world is the Framingham study. Not one person in 45 years of the longest ongoing heart study in the world has ever had a heart attack that had a cholesterol reading below 150. We're talking about Americans today that the norm is if you have your cholesterol reading somewhere between 212 and 180, that the medical establishment will do handstands. 1 out of every 2 Americans dying today of heart disease has a cholesterol reading in this acceptable level. Of the heart attacks, 50% of the people that have a heart attack die from the first one. And if your cholesterol is over 150, you should be extremely concerned. And do not go to your doctor and ask them, because most of them wouldn't know the difference between a good diet or bad. And when I went to the American Medical Association and I asked them, I said, what is the average age of doctors dying in the U.S. today? They told me, get out of here. We don't talk about that. The fact of it is that most doctors haven't ever had more than 4 hours of education in 18 years on diet.
I added to that last year when I took my physical, I'm 66 years old. The doctor looked at me and looked at my coverage and see you don't take no medication at all. I said, I don't. But you know I was a vegetarian. And he said, you're the healthiest person I've seen in a long time.
Do you realize that you're almost middle age? Don't laugh. The human body.
Vegetarian, has made a world difference.
Yeah. The warranty on every organ in your body the day you were born was that it would last 120 years. And with our diet and our environment, we just keep subtracting those. And it's not about how long you live, it's about how healthy you live. And, personally, I want to live to be 120 years old. I want to die jumping out of a second-story window, getting away from an irate husband. But other than that,